I'm hoping to do over the next couple of podcasts is look at different ways and speak to a couple of qualified people that do different therapies about how you can look at finding peace with yourself, because sometimes people can do it on their own. Other times people need guidance. And I think a lot more people now are looking at therapy as guidance. And it's like I alluded to earlier, it's speaking to people that understand, that are going to give you advice and listen without judgment, and who are coming from a completely neutral place. And welcome to another episode of 50 Shades in Grey. So today we are looking at what it looks like the point before you decide that you're ready to try dating again. So you may have come out of a marriage, a long relationship. You may be with or without kids. You may have lost a partner in the last few years and got to a point of where you think you're ready to date. Now, however you get to that final point, whatever your journey looks like before then, you then find yourself in a situation where it's new territory now, in terms of it's not like we were when we were younger and everyone was starting from the same point. We're all starting from different points at the end of our journeys to begin our next one. And that can bring with it a lot of things. There can be a real lack of self-confidence. So how do you get that self-confidence about yourself after you've been very comfortable in a relationship where you've grown with someone over 3 or 4 years, 10, 20 years, whatever it may be, and that you now have to experience someone completely different? Or maybe it's just that you're on your own for the first time. And that can be really daunting as well, because that feeling of being on your own initially can be really exciting. I think if you've come out of a relationship where it's been a very stressful time for you, where you feel trapped, you feel emotionally tired, and everything that's gone on, when you come out of that relationship, it's a huge relief. It really is a huge relief. It's like a massive weight has been lifted from your shoulders. And those first few weeks, you can feel so much better immediately, because you have no longer got this emotional baggage that you're carrying with you. And being with someone and being unhappy is 100 times worse than being on your own and being unhappy. And on that, it's not that you're going to be unhappy on your own, because being single can be a real liberating experience. It can be great in terms of just spending time with yourself and getting to know yourself, because you realize once again that you don't actually need anyone else in your life. It's something that you choose. Having a partner is a choice. It's not a necessity. You can go through life really, really, really happy being single. And lots of people do. And lots of the feedback that we get from the podcast, especially from women, is that lots of them have just got to the stage where they're like, I'm done with dating. I really don't need to date. I'm quite happy on my own. And what I wanted to talk about today was that feeling as well, of that's a great, powerful place to be, but still be open to it, because that's an even better place to be. Don't ever shut off opportunities, because you may be walking away from something that could be great. So I think if you're in a place where you can get to where you can sit on a Saturday night on your own in front of the TV, maybe your kids are growing up, maybe your kids are with the partner for the night, whatever it may be, but where you're just on your own. And if you're at a point where you can sit there and be happy and think, this is great, and really enjoy that, you're in a really good position. And from that position, if you can be open to new things. So don't shut anyone else out, because I say a lot of people, the messages are that, I don't want to meet anyone. Well, maybe not be thinking that you don't want to. Maybe we might be protecting ourselves a little bit of, we think the worst. So if the worst happens, we're not disappointed, but be open to it. And being open doesn't mean that you're going to be disappointed. It doesn't mean you're actively looking. It just means that if any opportunities arise, you'll welcome them in and see where they go to. Now, the problem with that is it then becomes a gamble, because you find yourself going from a position of where, right, I'm in my life, I've got my kids or my job or whatever it may be, my friends, my family that keep me happy. I'm going along quite nicely. Nothing's upsetting me. I'm in a good space. We know that having relationships isn't easy. Living with someone else, male, female, whatever it may be, in a relationship or just as friends is never easy. So it's always that gamble of, do I take on this new experience, this new relationship with the knowledge that it could go wrong, and it could be grief, and it could be grief that I don't think I need, and it could be just upsetting my equilibrium of, I'm in a good place, and then what if I get to like the guy, the girl, and then what if that goes wrong? I've got over heartbreak before, or I've got over splitting up with someone before, and I've moved on and I'm in a good place. Why do I want to gamble all of that to go through it again? And that boils down to a personal choice. But sometimes those exciting moments of the initial stages of meeting people and finding out it doesn't work, finding out it doesn't go wrong, for good and bad, they excitement to our life. And sometimes maybe you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but that's excitement I really don't need. I don't need that sort of excitement in my life, because it's not excitement, it becomes stress. And you can feel nervous about it as well, because you're almost gambling everything, and you're leaving yourself open once again to disappointment, I guess. And none of us want to be disappointed or a disappointment to someone else. So I completely get when people are in a situation where they're like, I don't want to date again. I really don't. I think my advice would just keep yourself open to it, because it may be something great. We did a podcast series last year where we did two series of them, where we had people that follow the show. They came on, and they came on for once a week over 3 or 4 weeks, and they just gave us their experiences of dating, and they all tried dating apps at the same time. And I remember one of the women that came on, she started off and she really threw herself into it. But by the end, she was like, do you know what? I'm kind of done with it. I'm kind of done with it. But, I'm not really interested. Okay, but I'll leave myself open. And a couple of weeks after that, she was down a local pub, bumped into a guy. They got chatting, and I think it's probably been a year they've been together now. And I see her posts that come up, and they're still together, and she's having a great time. And I think that's always the possibility. It is a gamble. It's always a gamble leaving yourself open. But if you know that you can be okay on your own, you'll always have that. And like I said, that is a powerful position to be in, because then you won't put up and accept a lot of the rubbish that you might have put up with and accepted before, because you just won't allow yourself to. And knowing that you don't need someone, but it's nice to have someone, is completely different to being in a relationship where you're outside pressures are so much that you feel you have to stay. And we all know people in relationships that are there not for the other person, but they're there because of financial implications. They're there because they've got young children, and or because all the families get on, and they don't want to upset that equilibrium. So they stay. And you know, they'll say they're not happy, but they do it for everyone else. Now that's fine, that's their choice. But once you've got, you've decided that's not for you and you're not doing it and you've come out the other side, you'll be less likely to be in that situation again. And also, you've will have experienced by then, like, the knowledge that I can be on my own. You know I can be on my own, and I know, yes, I might be hurt for a couple of weeks, but recover quicker and I'll get back to where I am now. So, in essence, what are you going to lose? You might think, okay, you're going to lose a couple of months, but it could go horribly wrong. But you could have a good couple of months. You could get a couple of experiences from it that you might not have experienced before. And isn't that kind of what it's all about? Our last breath, are we not going to look back on the love that we've had through our life, for good, for bad, and the experiences that we've had through our life as well? They're the things that contribute to, I guess, a rich tapestry of life. It's those experiences, and they're not always monetary. Yes, money can buy you great experiences. Let's not beat around the bush. If you've got money, it makes your experiences probably wider in terms of you can travel, you can do this, you can do that. But probably your best experiences will still be with people. They'll still be with good friends or from good moments or things that you're doing with someone that you care about. So you just might end up with a few experiences that might be nice to look back on. And it could even be better than that. They could be longer experiences. This might be something that will go on for longer. So it's getting yourself in a position where you're ready to take on whatever it may be, dating apps, going out, meeting people. Now that brings us to the second thing of when you feel like you're ready to date again. And that's something only you will know. And that is a little bit of trial and error. Whether you do dating apps, and again, lots of the feedback we get is people going on dating apps, we're not doing that again. And, I get that, completely get that. I think I was very fortunate in terms of, I guess I had a choice of whether or not I still did them or not. And that was because I've got a good set of friends around me that I socialize with. So we'll go out. So I'll be in a situation where I can meet people. Also, I live close to London. So I can go out with people in London where there's lots of people. There's always lots of people around, new people coming in and out. And I'm also in a little suburb outside of London in Essex, where it's a busy place as well. So you're always meeting people. I'm still quite active in terms of clubs that I'm involved in. For me, it's football, so I'll meet friends and then we'll go out from there. And then obviously I've got my own different circles of friends that I'll go out with as well. So I always had the opportunity of meeting people. And I use dating apps as well to sometimes break free from those circles, because it can be a great thing meeting friends of friends, but it also can be a negative things, because then everything gets a little bit crossed. And, if it's not working out, it can sometimes blur the lines of your friendship. So it was always easier for me to keep that side of my life completely separate to my friends as well. And also, I found that it did get a bit tedious having my friends' partners judging me for seeing all these different girls all the time. And I'm sure they got fed up with it in terms of, oh, you'd seen someone else now. But that was because it was a lack of understanding on their part. They just didn't understand that midlife dating, that's what it's like. You'll meet a lot of people. You'll you'll take them out with you, because it's not like, we're in our 20s anymore. We're mature people where they can meet your friends. And also, you want to make decisions quickly because you don't want to waste time when you get older. So you tend to throw people in the deep ends, and you want to see what they're like around your friends, because you don't want to find out 3 or 4 months down the line that they don't get on with your friends, or you see a different side to them when they're in social circles. So you tend to do those things a little bit quicker maybe than you should. But also, if your friends have all been in couples for a long time, they're like, oh, are you seeing someone else now? And it's kind of like, no, we met on these dating apps. That's kind of how it happens. And, we go along with that. So I got to the stage where I kind of kept my dating life very separate from a lot of circles of my friends, because I didn't like the judgment of it a lot of the time. But once you start getting to that point of, however you choose, it is opportunity. So I understand why a lot of people are on dating apps that don't want to be, but I completely sympathize with them because it is a case of, well, I don't like them, but what other choice have I got? Because they might now be living in a small place, sort of that's away from towns. They may not have circles of friends that are single to go out with or that want to go out. If they do go out, maybe they're with couples. So it doesn't always lend itself the opportunity in meeting people because there's not going to be people there that are single. As we get older, we tend to socialize more around different people's houses because that's quite nice to do as well. But if you're the single person, you are sometimes thinking, I'm going to know everyone now, so I know I'm not meeting anyone there tonight. So you kind of want to break free from those circles as well. But a lot of the time, it is about opportunity. And sometimes you haven't got those opportunities. So all you're left with is the dating sites. But leaving yourself open, if you decide that I'm not going to do dating sites, you know, but I'm not meeting people, then I think it's about putting yourself into situations where there's a chance of meeting people. So whether that's a social club that does a sport that you like, so you can go along and say it's I don't know, a tennis club, let's say you really enjoy tennis. So the bottom line is you're going to get to play tennis again, but also you're going to be meeting new people. And with that, there is a chance that you might meet someone the same as you that decides to do the same. So there's always a benefit to it of the bottom line is you're going to play tennis, but you're putting yourself in situations where it gives you a chance of meeting people. Because as I always thought, and I had this a lot in the early years of being single, is I'd be at home on a Saturday, especially when Zach was younger, and I'd be thinking, I'm not going to meet anyone in my front room. That's the bottom line. You know who's in your house. You're not meeting anyone in your house. So you have to step outside of your front door in order to meet people. And that's where dating apps are good because effectively you don't. You can you can have mini relationships where you can be lazy and get the thrill of a chase, let's say, or the thrill of a little bit of flirting. And that's great. But eventually, if you're going to meet that person, you do have to step outside of your front door. And that's where I think a lot of dating apps find with people where they are talking to people like that don't want to step out their front door, but they'd like a little bit of company. So they use the dating apps on a Saturday night, Sunday night. Sunday night was always the one on the dating apps where, you'd always get a lot of activity on a Sunday night because that was always the people have plans on a Saturday, but Sunday they're thinking they're out sitting, thinking it would be nice to have a chat with someone now or know that there's someone there. So I think that you'll find yourself a lot of the time talking to people like that are just wanting a bit of conversation. But that's where I think if dating sites had categories for that, because it'd be great to have just here for conversation and a bit of flirting, no intention of meeting up. I think you'd get a lot of people on those, because it'd be like having a WhatsApp conversation with single people that you could just have a little bit of a flirt with maybe without any intention of meeting up and no one gets hurt. There's no ghosting that goes on and everything else that, people detest. But it's also what I found out from doing those podcasts that I mentioned earlier on. The one of the groups, especially the 5 women that are on it, all still keep in touch with each other. They're incredibly close for people that don't always see each other. They have regular video meetings where I think it just gives them people to talk to that understand their situation, because that was one of the things that I always found when I was single was that it it was hard to talk to people that understood it. I found myself a lot of the time talking to friends that had been married a long time that their last recollection of dating was in their 20s when it was completely different. So they aligned their advice to you based on that. And a lot of the time, I do remember sort of politely nodding and going, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah," thinking, "You've got no idea. You've really got no idea because you haven't done it." So it was always very difficult unless I was speaking to someone that was a guy that was single as well. And I was lucky enough to have two or three friends that were at the time, and they got it. So when I had conversations with them, it was quite refreshing to hear that people, it wasn't just you. Because sometimes, especially when you're single in midlife, you can think things that are happening are just happening to you, but they're really common. And that's one of the biggest things from the podcast, from this podcast, that when a lot of the followers are women, a lot of their complaints about men, I had exactly the same experiences when it was just women as well. So it's really interesting because I'm thinking that this is not just guys. Women do exactly the same things. We just, we only know one side of the fence because that's the side we're coming from. But, I'd experienced exactly the same things that a lot of these women were telling me from women as well. So it's just us as people. It tends to happen on the dating apps. So it's all about getting yourself into a frame of mind where you can be really independent, but still be open to new experiences and seeing where those new experiences go with the knowledge that if this doesn't work out for me, I'll be good. I'm going to be fine because I've experienced it already. I know I can get through. If I can get through that, what I've been through already, anything else will be a breeze. So I know I can get through it. Yes, I might be down for a while, but I'll be okay. And I think that knowledge that you'll be okay is really powerful. And no one else can give you that. That's got to come internally from you. And what I'm hoping to do over the next couple of podcasts is look at different ways and speak to a couple of qualified people that do different therapies about how you can look at finding peace with yourself, because sometimes people can do it on their own. Other times people need guidance. And I think a lot more people now are looking at therapy as guidance. And it's like I alluded to earlier, it's speaking to people that understand, that are going to give you advice and listen without judgment, and who are coming from a completely neutral place and knowing that you can speak to this person and it's not going to be gossip. And that's the other thing as well is, and I'm always really aware, I don't tell a lot of people anything at all because I always know certain people will tell five other people, certain people will tell two other people. And that's not in a bad way. It's because that's what some people do. I've got to say, guys are less likely to do that than women. Women are really empathetic. And with that empathy, they share. And sometimes I've found that people share stuff that I've told them in a nice way with other people, and it's really annoyed me. And the reason guys don't do that, because guys don't really pay attention to detail. Two, they're not really interested. Three, they're not usually listening. So the information that you give will just be sound bites, because you listen, you've all seen the classic sketches of, the man goes home and the woman says, "So how's so-and-so's wife?" And the guy's like, "I don't know." Like, well, how much did the baby weigh? I don't know. Guys haven't got that empathy. And that's why women are great listeners, but also women share a lot of information with each other. Uh, and sometimes I know that women that I know in my life, they will share that information with people I don't want them to. I want to tell someone and I want them to go no further, because sometimes you just want to talk to someone about something. You don't want an opinion. You don't want their opinion. You just want to get it out of you, because sometimes it's about, just saying stuff out loud. And we all talk to ourselves, and I think we all do that as well. We all have conversations with ourselves, but sometimes it's nice to just say it to a person. I think that's where therapists are great. They give you a person to talk to without judgment, in full confidence that is going to give you advice based on their experience of doing all of this. So we're going to look at different therapies over the next few weeks. We're going to have some people on and we're going to talk about that. So that's my little podcast today. And it's just about getting yourself in the right frame of mind. I think getting yourself into a right position, but not shutting yourself down and just being open to what if, because it is all about what if, because a what if can change everything for you. And that, and that could be bad, but it could also be really good. So it is a gamble, but you're gambling with the knowledge that if you lose, you'll be okay because you're already okay. And you're not giving up everything. You're retaining some independence. And that again circles back round to like what modern relationships look like now. It's not about you have to give up everything. You're going to move into, with each other. Maybe that'll happen, but you can retain your independence and still have a relationship. And that way you've always got the knowledge that I'm going to be okay. I really hope this works out. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be upset, but I'm going to be okay because I've still retained my independence and I've done this before. So guys, thank you again for listening to 50 Shades in Grey. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow our Instagrams. We put loads of clips on there. It really does help the podcast gain momentum. It's growing all the time. And I hope it's helping you all. The feedback is always, as ever, really touching and I'm really grateful for it. Keep sending me your questions and we'll get through all the topics that you want a guy's opinion on. And it is just an opinion. And we'll have some professional people as well coming up to give you more insights into the different sort of therapies they are. Anyway, take care. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow. See you soon. Bye-bye.